Hi, it's Jessie. I'm back again, and I've been talking to you about iniquity. And remember the definition: iniquity is a violation of the right or duty that mankind is under obligation to do. And in the context of King David, where he says he was born into iniquity, and he says God cleansed his iniquity from him. But then we have some examples of what exactly his iniquity was. And so I wanted to review it a little bit, you know. In 2 Samuel 11, it talks about David and Bathsheba, how he was up on a roof, and he looked down and saw Bathsheba bathing, and so he sent men to go and get her. This is one part in iniquity. Never mind what the woman wants, never mind who the woman is, if she's married, not married, go and get her, you know. Iniquity right there. You basically kidnap this lady, right? The second point, the lady gets pregnant, so David sends for her husband to come back because her husband was away on the battlefield fighting a war for David. So he sends for the husband to come back, thinking that the husband will lay with the wife and no one will know the difference if the child belongs to the husband or David. No one will find out. Only the husband won't lay with his wife because he says that he has men sleeping in tents. He says that the battle is fierce out there and he can't rest and enjoy the comforts of his home when his men are in danger. So David says, we'll stay one more night. And then he stays one more night, and David writes a note, and he tells Joab, I think it was, that to put Uriah where the fighting is the fiercest. Uriah is the husband. Put him where the fighting is the fiercest, and then withdraw so that Uriah will be struck down and killed. This is working iniquity. This is scheming. See, David, it's so much more than just this act. It is that David did an immoral act because it was within his power to do so, because no one could stop him from doing so. Hello, kitty. Down. Oopsie. Silly kitty. But it was within his power to do so, and no one could stop him. In fact, people would aid him in doing it. And then he wanted to cover it up because it was within his power to do so. No one would stop him from doing it, and people would aid him in doing it. David, he couldn't do any of this by himself, okay? He needed to work through people to get it done. Like he had to send people to snatch up Bathsheba from her bath. He had to send people to bring Uriah back. He had to send people to give Uriah orders to go somewhere, and he had to send people to leave Uriah by himself struck down on the battlefield, right? David couldn't do any of this by himself. He worked through other people to get his iniquity, his violation of somebody else's rights to happen, right? He couldn't do it one-on-one. And that's a point that I want to make clear. Evil always uses someone else's hands to do their bidding so that they can stay and sit and look righteous as a king, But somebody else is committing murder. Somebody else is setting a trap. Somebody else is kidnapping. Somebody else is guarding the door so that she can't leave. Somebody else, It's a very hard thing when you think, oh, this person is evil. People ask, why do the wicked prosper? Why does evil prevail? And evil prevails because it uses someone else's hands, And it uses like righteous people, like soldiers in an army for a righteous nation. It makes you wonder how righteous the nation was, right? If people just do things because they're told to do them, When Nazi Germany was taken down, and these people, the Nazi soldiers, were taken in. They were asked, why did you do it? And it was because they were told to do it. So understanding this about human nature is that people will do what they're told when it comes from an authority figure. And understanding that if we want to stop evil, then the first thing that we have to do is stop letting it use our hands. We have to stop allowing ourselves to become parts of plots and schemes. We have to stop floating these narratives, I say some things, and I always talk in a biblical context because, God has been my refuge, and relating to these biblical characters in the book, it gives me hope. It reminds me that it's the same God today that was back then. It reminds me that someone else had to go through this, and if we get it right, no one else will have to go through this again. If we do the right thing, if we fix the world, no one else will have to go through it again. And yes, that's my agenda. I want to change the world because I'm tired of people crying about how evil others are, pointing a finger at Trump and saying he's lawless. Excuse me, this whole system that operates in the world is lawless, and you cannot just point a finger at one man. And no, I'm not defending Trump. I am correcting you because it's wrong. You don't even know what lawlessness looks like, Lawless is when you use, when you allow yourself to be used in a way that brings about the demise of someone else, that impedes on their rights, You have a duty to your fellow man to preserve their rights. And if you forget your duty to your fellow man to give him his privacy and not try to set a trap for him, not try to take his life, not tell lies and bear false witness against him, if you forget about your duty to your fellow man because someone in a position of authority told you to, then you are no better than a Nazi, because you are doing the exact same thing, and you need to recognize that, and you need to decide who you want to be. Yes, I want to change the world, but I want to change the way you think. And no, I'm not plotting or scheming to get some evil agenda across. I'm exposing things, I'm explaining things, I'm correcting your logic so that you can understand that evil only stands because you participate in it. That iniquity only, people only get away with iniquity because they use other people's hands. So think to yourself, what am I doing before you do it? Because you're going to be held liable for it. I mean, David was held liable, and not only David was held liable, his children were held liable for generations. And so the nation of Israel also held liable for generations. Lots of trouble going on there. And the angel of the Lord came to David and he told him, he said, God's going to put a sword on your house for doing this, a divided house. You're going to have constant iniquity coming at your house. People are always going to be fighting other people through you or fighting you through other people, so you can't see who your real enemy is. And maybe you're fighting the one who happens to be your brother, And it's crazy the way that things happen. But until you learn to stop allowing yourself to be roused up and clinging to what you think is the past, because there's always like this puppeteer in the back pulling strings, and so you can't even see who your real enemy is because they're shooting off people at you. They're shooting off people at you like they're arrows, and you're getting struck, and you want to break the arrows. I know I caught the arrows. I want to break the arrows too, but here's the thing: there's just an endless supply of arrows. If you want to fix the world, you have to change the order of it, because One thing I learned when I was in school was that your success in life depends upon your ability to navigate systems. And if the systems require you to work in iniquity, and evil just grows and grows and grows. However, if you develop standards, right? I know in this country, they allow for iniquity, and then they cover it by saying, well, you can't sue them. You can't sue them. They're protected from lawsuits. You're barred from suing these people. And then if they prosecute them, they maybe get a slap on the wrist. They maybe get, 3 years of probation for something that should have been, 20 years in prison, They maybe have to pay a fine, but it's only like a small fraction of what they're worth. And so it doesn't know, they don't even feel it. Like they make it up the next day just on interest and the money they already have, It's this world is set up to allow evil to survive. And if you want to pull it back, you can't fight against it. You have to raise a standard against it. You have to say, no, you're not using my hands, You have to understand the way that things work. This whole economy thing, right, that came from Reagan and his little trickle-down economics. I don't like Reagan as a president, and I'll tell you that right now. I don't like him because well, for one, he shouldn't have even been president. They got Carter out of there by extending the Iran thing that was going on at the time. And so Reagan got in because they expanded this thing instead of settling it, and he got to look like the hero. So while he's looking like the hero, he's changing the economy. He's changing the order in the world, And we got this whole trickle-down system where government is privatized, and they run this line to you like you don't want government in your life. No, I don't want government in my life when government privatizes business and still pulls the strings and then acts like the businesses are the ones to blame, I don't want that kind of government. I want the kind of government that creates opportunity and doesn't pay out all this money to private corporations so that they can gain wealth and they can employ people at a reduced rate and they can not pay taxes. They're getting money out the wazoo because America has been privatized with trickle-down economics, and they want to tell you capitalism is good. They want to vilify anyone who receives any kind of government money except for the wealthy. And you sit there so mad at each other, and you don't understand that this is the system at work. And if you don't change the system, you won't benefit from it. You need to demand socialism. If you think socialism is bad, the road that you drive on was built with socialism. Social welfare policy built that road, That library that you go to, socialism. Social welfare policy built that library. The police, socialism. The army, socialism. The schools, your education, socialism, Socialism is a thing that you benefit from in the nation when people come together and care for one another and want to make more for one another. And to vilify things as socialism and saying socialism makes people fat and lazy. No, socialism gives people a place to belong and tells people where to put their effort, where to come for help, It tells you that road you drive on, it didn't get it there by itself. It's there because we work together for it, But no. Socialism's bad. It makes people fat and lazy. Somebody should boycott Home Depot for that guy saying that. Somebody should walk off their job for that guy saying that. Somebody should give him a really big rebuke for that guy saying that. Because he's wrong. What makes people, quote unquote, lazy at their job is disinterest. Is devaluation. Is being, what's the word? Disenfranchised. It's the disinvestment. Is that the word? Disinvestment? How do you say that word? I forget. But you get it. You can only take so much from people, pay them pennies, and expect them to keep up this performance level. You can't do that because they're unmotivated because you're a jerk, right? You got to correct the iniquities in the world. You got to call it out and you have to act against it, you know? And I'm not saying raise up a sword and cut them down, because a sword won't do you any good. However, Gandhi had a really good method, satyagraha, civil disobedience. Pull back your support, condemn them verbally. You you pay taxes, you should see a benefit of it. Not Elon Musk. He's not even American by birth, He's out of the apartheid wealth of South Africa, you know. And Trump saying, "Oh, we got to save Elon Musk." Hang on, wait a minute. Because how much money of America is going to this guy? You know? Who who do we want to lift up? Do we want to lift up these billionaires, or do we want to lift up each other? Our infrastructure is crumbling, That bridge out in where was it, Philly? The bridge that collapsed, That's a sign that socialism being crushed is not good for America, because when we're not thinking about what America needs, or when we're not thinking about maintaining our country, when we're vilifying socialism, we can't get nowhere because our roads will crumble, our bridges give way right underneath us, You gotta think about these things, because people who work iniquity like David, they don't get there by themselves. And you have to make a choice for yourself who you want to lift up, if that makes sense to you. We have to change the order if we're going to change anything. To change our understanding and not be driven by these people who vilify others and cower to them because we're afraid that they're going to vilify us. Be strong enough to stand with your God and with your law, and these people will not be able to rob you. These people will go hide back under a rock where they belong, because nobody should be standing up there calling their workers fat and lazy because socialism is making them way. That is just ridiculous. Socialism builds things. We build things when we come together. No, I'm not a Marxist. But I do believe that housing is a human right. Food is a human right, I believe there are human rights that nobody should be without. And if we have unhoused people, homeless population growing, that is the problem with socialism being crushed. We have to care for our people, because people will make a contribution where they belong. If you don't care for them, they are gonna turn fat and lazy because they're not gonna work for you. Care for your people, and they will make the contribution. Everybody makes a contribution in a place where they belong. That's all I'm saying. And how did I get to that from David? Well, our rulers today are ruling in much the same way David ruled. I'm going to sit here and look righteous, and I'm going to kill anything that could challenge that. I'm going to point the finger. I'm going to get into office by killing Trump. I don't want to hear your argument killing Trump. I don't really want to hear about this whole, the documents. I don't want to hear about that nonsense. You know why? Because America's bringing its own end. It's bringing its own end. It's collapsing upon itself, just like the sub. It's collapsing upon itself. It's imploding. And if you don't see that, if you can't run on a platform that says, this is how we fix it by coming together, and don't you call our people fat and lazy. Don't you say that. Oh, you want to condemn socialism? You drive on a road every day. Every person in America drives on a road every day. Socialism at work. Let's correct people and put them in their place So they stop making it look like somebody else is the problem. And we understand that these people are driving a master-slave relationship. And in America, we are free. Well, should be free. But it's going to take some work to get that way. And that's what I'm saying. Let us not let these people crush us as they have been. Let us not lend them our hands so they can work iniquity. Let us only get behind the people who have a plan to change things. You know, we don't really need a king. We can change things ourselves. But we need that person at the top to coordinate with us, to work with us, to bring about the change that we need. And we can't find that person who will work with us to bring about that change that we need if their only interest is in beating Trump. Because that's how much they've reduced America. That's how much they reduced us to. That the survival of the nation depends on beating Trump. The survival of the nation depends on impeaching Biden. This stuff is nonsense. Focus on taking care of people and stop with the nonsense. Evil people drain a nation because it's very expensive to be evil. Evil people are lazy. They have to privatize things and pay other people to do their bidding, right? They bankrupt the nation. And they defend themselves by vilifying anything that stands against them. And you got to realize this. You got to fix it. You got to say, we're not putting up with this nonsense anymore. You know? And I know that I'm asking a lot. I'm asking you to grow in maturity, to be people that you haven't been, to rise above petty nonsense, and to be people that you haven't been. To cling, to cleave, to reach for something that can be more. That's all I got to say for today. Y'all have a good day.